When it comes to space games, more often than not, trade and commodities play a rather significant role in both the universe and the gameplay loop. And while it's an easy argument that Star Citizen has yet to make its own economic component feel significant, it does exist in a form that we can only hope is in its infancy and will soon expand into a blossoming landscape that dominates and draws in any player that beholds it. And while those of us in our imaginary truckers' caps and business suits await that glorious day where Tony Z's vision all falls into place and the live build, Star Citizen does have the basis of that vision available for us to dabble in. Citizens, my name's Beard of Oz, and today I'll be doing a refresher of Cargo Rich, my first commodity hauling and trading guide, and updating it with the things that have changed, returned, and been added to the cargo-related universe since then. At the time I recorded this, 318 is still in the Wave 1 PTU, so you will likely see this annoying little message at the bottom of the screen in a lot of the footage included. I'll go over the basics of trade and hauling, some new and return factors, and show you some of my favourite earning routes and why I prefer them. If you already know everything you need to know about how to trade and just want the juice on my favourite commodities, I've put time codes below so that you can skip right to it. If you're new to the channel, or you're a returning viewer and haven't already, consider subscribing so that you can keep up to date and in the loop on any new ways to make money in the verse. With all that said, let's dive in. Tradable commodities are made up of many different materials, be it refined ores or gases, foodstuffs, medical supplies, and even less than reputable recreational substances. Mechanically speaking, each one of these individual items makes up a unit. When it comes to the transport of these commodities, a ship will have a certain amount of space in which to store them, denoted by an SCU value. The standard cargo unit is made up of 100 individual units. Therefore, the Drake Cutter, with a cargo capacity of 4 SCU, will allow the transport of 400 individual items, say empty pizza boxes. A ship with a larger hold, for example a Drake Corsair with an SCU of 72, can hold 7,200 of those same pizza boxes. These commodities are primarily bought and sold in the administration buildings on stations, the storage buildings at mining facilities, the trade development divisions located in the 4 system capitals, and other assorted points of interest, some marked, others not. These trade terminals come with limitations of how much of their associated resources they will buy and sell within an allocated time frame, refreshing their stock periodically. This means that for the buying and selling of higher profit margin commodities, you will be competing against your fellow citizen traders. For the newer citizen with no prior knowledge of the trade commodities and the most profitable routes, Star Citizen has not abandoned you. Every so often an alert will appear on your HUD informing you of commodity trade updates. Navigating to your Mobiglass and under the Journal tab you see this alert title. Selecting it will bring to focus the areas within the Stanton region that have an excess of stocks available for purchase at a lower than market price, and similarly areas that are in need of such products and the value being offered for them. In the current build, these resources are limited to the processed foods, distilled spirits, and medical supplies. While not the most profitable item per unit, these commodities are a good way of getting your feet wet in the world of cargo hauling without requiring too much by way of initial investment. These alerts are updated frequently as many citizens will buy out some of these stocks as well as fill the requests of those in need of them, so do not tarry and dawdle if you wish to take part. For the commodities not listed in the alerts, there are websites accessible to you that hold player updated buy and sell prices and the locations they have been noted, SE Trade Tools and UEX Corp to name 2. I'll put the links in the description below. As these websites are player driven and not directly receiving data from the game, these prices may not always be an up-to-date reflection of their value in-game, so take their information with a grain of salt. An important thing to note with cargo hauling is that unlike many of the other game loops in Star Citizen, this one has possibly the largest inherent financial risk as you must invest your own Alpha UEC into buying cargo. As it stands in its current build, there are no missions associated with cargo where a mission giver will provide you with cargo to haul, so it's all on your back pocket to fund this exercise. And with the addition of physicalized cargo as of 3.18, the goods that you purchase and transport are now of value to others, but more on that later. The buying and selling of these commodities is simple enough. With your cargo hauling vessel of choice, go to one of the previously mentioned commodity locations. Here, I am at Shady Glen on Waller in ArcCorp, and I'm going to purchase some distilled spirits. This commodity is not an overly expensive one, so it's a good choice for those starting out with a smaller amount of capital, as well as those wishing to be less of a tempting target. Approach the trade terminal, the majority of these will look like this. On the left hand side of the display you'll have a drop down tab where you can select your vessel and it will populate the cargo grid information. On the right hand side you'll have the buy and sell options. Selecting buy we can see the commodities available to purchase, and selecting sell we can see the commodities that this location is willing to buy from traders and the current price they will offer. A good way to develop your own trade routes and make money. I'm going to fill my hold with distilled spirits, and then we're going to go and sell them so that I can make some profit. So I've made my way to Baijini Point, the orbital station above ArcCorp. It's not going to get me the most profit, but I was feeling lazy today and I didn't want to travel too far. Making my way to the Galleria and then the admin office, I can now approach the trade terminals and sell my cargo and make a little bit of profit for my troubles. Now, like I mentioned, distilled spirits aren't a high margin trade good, but amongst the cheaper commodities, they have a nice bit of profit. Now, there are higher margin commodities to purchase, and those with the highest margin are the controlled substances, illegal in Stanton. These can be bought at various locations around Stanton, but only sold at no questions asked terminals. These locations are not in Armistice, so opportunistic pirate types will likely have their eyes and ears open, waiting for the perfect target. If you're wanting more information on the illegal goods trade, check out my guide here. I'll also put a link in the description below. Which brings me to an important note. With the introduction of physicalized cargo in 3.18, commodities purchased or collected by a player will be attached to their character identifier, so any other player attempting to sell that cargo can only do so at no questions asked terminals, meaning pirates and scavengers will most likely target drug runners more so than legitimate cargo haulers. That being said, if you're greedy enough to attempt running something like Laranite in a large hauler like a Caterpillar or a C2 and get jumped by pirates, you're still a lucrative target, so don't come crying to me. So, what are some of the best routes? Well, there are the classics like the Laranite and Agresium runs, though I'm not a fan of those personally, as the thought of having to transport those commodities down to a capital and then schlep to the TDD to sell them makes me die inside. And while it's true that you can land on the ice outside the Commons at New Babbage on Microtech, 3.18's Persistent has turned that spot into an abandoned shipyard, resembling a set piece from a frontier sci-fi show. No. For me, I enjoy the calm, quiet runs where I can get in and out of a trade spot with ease. Medical supplies being purchased from the Rayari facilities in Microtech and Crusader to then sell at mining facilities is a favourite of mine. And while it's true the profit margins are better at the stock market XTDDs, there's a joy in looting the habs in these frontier locations for random bits of armour and gear. As mentioned before, distilled spirits because they're cheap but can be sold at orbital stations as well as Grim Hex, and we all know the people living there could use a drink. Astatine is also a good one, it has a decent margin and Port Olisar and Grim Hex will buy a reasonable amount. 3.18 and Persistence has given us a new commodity supply option, and that is player ships. Whether it be abandoned vessels or those that have somehow been mysteriously destroyed in your presence, cargo now being physicalized can be plumbed from the holds of these legally ambiguous suppliers. Do keep in mind spending time in low grav has made you weak, so you'll need a multi-tool and tractor beam attachment to move those crates from their old home to your ship. Much the same as narcotic commodities, these goods can only be sold at no questions asked terminals located in the salvage yards, as well as Grim Hex and a couple other sneaky spots in Lagrange points. The offerings for these goods will be lower than legitimate commodities, but you didn't really pay for them, so it's all profit anyway. Just remember, this isn't legitimate cargo, so if security tries to scan you, run. And there you have it, the updated guide for cargo hauling for 3.18, which will be joining us very soon on the live servers, fingers crossed. Are you a cargo hauler? Is cargo hauling your life? Tell me in the comments section below. Until next time, citizens, stay safe in the verse, and I'll catch you all next time.